Hello, this is Ken Ferrie with this week's Boots in the Field report. Another week of rain events. Reports coming in from 3/4 of an inch to up over 5 inches. Wednesday's storm brought some wind events with it in different places. We've got corn that's blade over, some that's tipped at the ground, and some that's snapped off. Now, except for the snapped off corn, this other corn will gooseneck in a few days and be back up. Corn is now in that rapid growth stage. Things are happening fast. Plants are picking up 7 to 10 pounds of nitrogen per day. In that rapid growth stage, we can see some zinc and sulfur striping, some tight whorls. In the driest areas, where we were so dry we dealt with some rootless corn syndrome. The crown roots were slow to get going. The above ground part of the plant was bigger than the root system could support below. These fields were showing some rolling on the days when we didn't have that high evapotranspiration rates. With these rains, though, the crown roots will get going. They're going to be growing at 1 inch to 1.5 inches per day, which should put a stop to that rolling. This week is the summer solstice. I've seen a ton of flowering beans. The rest should start firing off here in the next few weeks. Here at the Corn College campus, my March 14th and April 14th plantings are flowering. My May 14th plantings are not yet flowering. I'm getting a lot of questions and service calls, all dealing with the carbon penalty. Based on these questions, I realize we need a little review on this subject. Growers who understand it and have set up a system to manage it are doing great, but others are struggling to figure out what is going on. The carbon penalty is intense this year, with beans being locked up for over 3 weeks. It's like Mother Nature's got them by the ankle and won't let them go, won't let them move. Let's start at the beginning. What is the carbon penalty? Now, 100 years ago when I was in college, they called it the priming effect. I didn't like that terminology, so I changed it to the carbon penalty. Basically, the soil microbes are going to decompose any readily available carbon in the soil that they can find. In the line from the movie Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. You build the carbon in this year's crop, and the microbes will come and digest it as food. Now, this is a great thing because it allows us to recycle nutrients left in that carbon. Plus, it gets the residue out of the way so we can farm. Imagine what farming would be like if you had 10 years' worth of residue out there that you had to deal with. When these microbes decompose carbon, they need energy for this process, and they get that from the soil. They consume large amounts of nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, zinc, and so on. This massive consumption of nutrients leaves our crop caught wanting. There are a number of things that go into the carbon penalty. Quality and quantity of the carbon, placement of the carbon, soil conditions, and time. When it comes to quality of carbon, the higher the carbon-nitrogen ratio, the heavier the carbon penalty. Corn has a 60-to-1 carbon-nitrogen ratio, while beans will have a 30-to-1 carbon-to-nitrogen ratio. Wheat can be 100-to-1. Cover crops can be from 10-to-1 to 101. Manure, as it comes out of the animal, could be 8-to-1. As soon as we put bedding with it, it could be 80-to-1. If you have the same amount of residue in beans as corn, the bean residue would break down easier because it has a lower carbon-nitrogen ratio. When it comes to quantity, we have a lot more corn residue to decompose at 270 bushel corn compared to 80 bushel soybean crop. Placement, where the carbon is placed, plays into the severity of the carbon penalty. Carbon penalty is paid where the fence post rots off there at the soil surface. That's where the oxygen is, and these are aerobic microbes, oxygen breathing, that are driving the carbon penalty. Carbon that is plowed down 9 inches, where oxygen is limited, it will not be involved in the carbon penalty. Uniform distribution of the carbon will create uniform carbon penalty. If your combine streaks the carbon, or the residue behind it, your carbon penalty will be streaked. These microbes need oxygen, carbon, nutrients, moisture, and temperature. Any one of those will be the limiting agent if you take it away. Temperature. The soil microbes are temperature driven. As the soil warms up, they get to work. When the ground is below 50 degrees, they go dormant. We see activity really get going when the soil temperature gets and stays above 60 degrees. If all other conditions are met, the microbe population will double every 10 degrees the soil warms. This creates an explosion of soil microbes. Build it and they will come. Think of it like a farm pond that has an algae bloom overnight. It just happens quickly. Going to church on Sunday, corn looks good. By Wednesday, it's got a yellow look to it. Another factor, time. As these microbes immobilize nutrients in your soil to decompose last year's carbon, those nutrients are not lost, they're just temporarily tied up. Eventually, the microbes will consume all of the readily available carbon, and then the population will back off, releasing these nutrients back into the soil. When the carbon penalty subsides, your nutrients will be returned along with the nutrients that were tied up in that residue. Now, immobilization and mineralization are happening constantly in the soil when soil conditions allow it. But sometimes we have net immobilization and sometimes we have net mineralization. This year, we're seeing a lot more issues dealing with the stunting and discoloration from the carbon penalty. Placement of the carbon has caused some weird patterns in the field, some being mistaken for chemical streaks. Greener streaks in bean fields where guys are using chopping corn heads when they go out there and they're breaking a new land where the chopping head is throwing residues sideways like a lawnmower discharge. Then you turn around and you come back through there and you're throwing it the other direction. This leaves a strip that's got considerably less carbon on it. And in those strips you see taller beans because they're not dealing with the carbon penalty. Again, it's mistaken for herbicide issues potentially out there. In corn on corn, when the combine starts up, the first part of the pass, the combine's empty, that first 20, 30 feet, no residue coming out the back until you get that machine loaded and the residue's passing through. Then when you come back from the other end, if you pause a second on the headland, you dump the combine and that causes a sawtooth green look across the field. Again, in some cases mistaken for potential herbicide carryover. But without that residue dumped on there, that corn is greener because it's not fighting that carbon penalty. Any place where you had a field fire, we see greener crops because you burnt the carbon. Even though the corn stalks are still there, it's the leaves that you burnt. But the leaves are the big part of the carbon penalty because they are consumed easier by microbes and they cause an explosion in that population quicker than the corn stalks would. Here in central Illinois, it takes 3.5, almost 4 years to decompose those corn stalks, where those leaves could be done in anywhere from 3 to 6 months. I've been on service calls on first-year corn, where the grower is showing yellow streaking behind the combine due to poor spreading of the soybean residue last fall. The farmer's confused to see it behind soybeans. Now, aren't they supposed to put nitrogen in the ground, hence the soybean nitrogen credit? Well, here's the problem. Soybean nitrogen credit is a myth. When we check soil nitrates at the end of the year, most cornfields have more soil nitrogen than bean fields. When we check the residue, the corn carries more nitrogen per acre than the bean residue. Soybeans have a lower carbon-nitrogen ratio and a lot less tons of carbon compared to corn. Because of the amount and quality of carbon, 60-1 in corn, we have to apply 40 additional pounds of N in corn on corn compared to soybeans. There is no secret credit that the soybean is pumping nitrogen in the ground. It should have been labeled as a corn on corn penalty, add 40 pounds, not a credit. That has confused growers for years. Soybean residue creates a carbon penalty just like corn residue, but due to the amount and quantity and quality, along with the fact that most growers are applying nitrogen to their corn crops, whether it be dry fertilizer, starter, weed, and feed, you have enough N out there for both the microbes and the crop. Why is the carbon penalty so much tougher in 2025 here in central Illinois? It started with a great corn crop last year. In many cases, field records fell to the 2025 crop. Second, it was a dry fall and a dry spring. Now we're talking about soil conditions. It was a very dry spring, hence the reason why we're dealing with so many herbicide carryover issues. These microbes need moisture and temperature to do their thing. Last fall we had the temperatures, but we were dry. We came into the spring dry, hence our dust storms. In Illinois, we are used to paying a lot of our carbon penalty September through November. This year, that didn't happen. It's actually happening early June and beyond. This is what your farming peers that farm in northern Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, they deal with every year. By harvest, their soils are cool enough that breakdown does not take place. Now, based on our plot work, we would say in Illinois, corn on beans needs a minimum of 60 pounds of N where the fence post rots off, and corn on corn needs a minimum of 100 pounds of N to pay this penalty. Now, those are minimums. Those minimums aren't cutting it this year with the delayed processing of the carbon. In our quest not to let corn have a bad day, we need to manage that carbon penalty. The longer the corn stalls in the carbon penalty, the more yield it gives up. Our planter fertility plots are showing big responses this spring, again due to this carbon penalty. Banding nutrients next to the corn plant keeps it happy while all hell is breaking loose around it as the microbes are doing their feeding. If you throw anything on top of this struggling corn, like compaction, carryover, herbicide stress, it definitely magnifies it. If you're experiencing a lot of carbon penalty stress in corn this year, we may need to reevaluate your nutrient program. 2025 has exposed a weakness that may be hiding in the background every year. You just don't see it. It's not visible. With that, I see a lot of fantastic corn. Corn that's saying what carbon penalty? These fields, the carbon penalty has been managed. The fields caught in the carbon penalty really do stick out. When it comes to beans, they deal with the same carbon penalty. The only difference is, by the fourth trifoliate, they are producing their own nitrogen and pushing through this phase. As I see out there now, early planted beans are V5+, and they are tall and they're rocking on. The V3 to V4 beans have been standing still for 3 weeks. They need to get to V4+, but they can't find enough nitrogen to make it grow. Can't produce their own nitrogen, and they can't find enough. Then throw in some herbicide applications. They need to metabolize as well, and you got a recipe for this stall. The no-till fields, VT, and speed disc fields are the worst due to the placement of the residue at the surface. Many of these fields will finally break out of this stall next week, I feel. Now, while these fields are hard to look at, I ask you to hold judgment till this fall. In our trials, we have tried many things to help pay that carbon penalty. In the beans, from tillage to planter fertility to spring applied in, while we can produce a bigger, greener bean, our success in turning that into yield has been very limited. Many growers have asked, do I wait to spray weeds till the beans come out of it? Our response is no. Spray according to weed height and label. Don't wait. Remember, we're talking about a crop that we can roll, we can mow it, we can burn it in our stress plots, and it wants to yield more. So hold judgment on those. Switching gears. All pest teams need to go on high alert with these weather conditions. Frequent rains, cloudy days, cool nights, mid-June is the recipe for tar spot. Last year's dry June gave us a reprieve from diseases. This year's June doesn't look to be doing that. Scouts need to be looking for it, and managers need to plan on how you're going to handle it. Now is the time to have those discussions. Are we spraying once? Are we going to do it twice? What are we spraying? Who is going to do the spraying? How timely can they be? Remember, for tar spot, narrow up the application width if going by air. It'll cost you more, but penetration is a must. Who is doing the scouting when everyone's at the lake? Hammer this plan out now. Make sure everyone in your operation understands, including your suppliers. History has told us how to handle tar spot, and history will repeat itself if we don't learn from it. The crew finished up our coulter citrus plots last week, as well as some deer repellent plots done by both ground and drone. Next week, they plan to start the Y-drop plots here at Corn College, as well as some of our farmer plots. Sign up is coming in for the Corn Soybean College for July. Don't forget to get signed up there. The office did want me to mention that anyone signing up can do it, but for those groups signing up for the 10 or more discount or the truckload discount of 5 or more, you can call the office with your ticket information, and we'll send you an invoice so you can pay by check, avoiding the credit card fees if you want. Soil testing crews are fighting the rain to get the summer testing wrapped up. A little patience is appreciated as we finish this up. You may get repeated calls checking on your field conditions. To stay up to date, check out our website at croptechinc.com and subscribe to our podcast, Boots in the Field Report. Keep her safe, keep her moving.